This is another one, according to both the Pentagon and the Iranian president, who announced it during a campaign stop. It is the Iranian election season right now. According to Jane's Defense Weekly, which monitors all these military goings-on around the world, this is a very similar missile that was used when Iran launched a test back in November. Jane said that if it's true that it has a 2,000-kilometer range, that's about 1,243 miles, that would bring cities such as Moscow, Athens, southern Italy, etc., within striking distance. Now, on the other hand, President Ahmadinejad has said at a campaign stop that he, quote, said that the missile had the power to, quote, send to hell any military base from where, quote, a bullet was fired against his country. So what they're doing here is posturing again as they continue these tests. Of course, these tests, according to the United Nations, violate certain sanctions and other strictures that are put on Iran. But he says that this is because what they call the Zionist regime threatens Iran militarily with its false threats. And so to the timing that you point out, this does happen 2 days after President Obama met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and at that meeting, of course, Iran was top of the agenda, as the Israeli Prime Minister had wished it to be. At that point, President Obama had said that that they hoped that they would be able to come to some kind of progress with the reach-out policy to Iran towards or by the end of the year, after which they would reassess potentially tougher sanctions and the like. So this could also be a response to that. In addition, President Ahmadinejad was roundly criticized by some quarters in Iran because of the release of the Iranian-American journalist Roxana Sabari. So a lot of it could be electioneering as well.
As you know, Christine, the president has his fair share of critics when it comes to Iran policy. We talked to one of them just this morning, John Hanna, who was Vice President Dick Cheney's national security advisor, says you just can't trust the Iranian regime, and that just doing it diplomatically is not the way to do it. You've got to have a program of backing it up with sanctions, with the threat of military force as well. Does this give more credence to the president's to critics of the president's approach toward Iran?
Well, many have said that for a long time. The president was going to try to do something that actually precisely this had been tried under the Bush administration, when you remember there were tough sanctions and the threat of military force was never taken off the table. For his part, President Obama continues to say that, not as loudly as President Bush, but that all options are available. On the other hand, he's distinguished his policy by saying that without preconditions, he would choose to engage and see whether these very important issues can be resolved through direct engagement and direct negotiations. So far, it hasn't been tried. So the fact of the matter is one doesn't know whether it's going to be successful or not. Obviously, President Obama is trying to reach out, but so far there have been no formal direct negotiations on this issue. The nuclear issue is sort of farmed out to the so-called P5+1, Europeans, Russians, etc.